Alright lads, welcome back to another story time with Spectre. Today we're going to walk down across this bridge. This is a diagonal bridge. Very hard to do. Very hard. I like the way the beams crisscross in opposite directions though, and it does look very fine from down there. But let's get on with it. We go down here. I like this very much as well. That'll all be very nice harbour at one point. Progress is being made. It's just slow. Anyway, we're here to tell you a story. So let's go to the place where the storybooks are kept. Visioncraft chapters 2 and 3. Alright, now let's see. Let's not read it up there again. You know, it would be good to test the light proofing of this area. It's supposed to be safe at night if I've done my job. So, eek! I'll fix that. Anyway, let's see. By the fireplace? That seems like a good place. But I'm also quite proud of this little place in here. Aye. Let's read it right here. Alright. Alright, chapter 2, the House of Boash. So let's see, in chapter 1, Soba and Ash had just rescued Spectre from the swamp. Here we go, yeah. We set out to leave the ick of the swamp. Ash was kind, and dismounting, he gestured that I should get in the saddle, which I did without protest, for though I was ashamed that my kindly host should walk while I ride on his mount, I was nevertheless dehydrated, exhausted, and truthfully had become nearly incapable due to my foolish pursuit of my lost fortune. Ash seemed in fine health, but walked rather slowly, talking freely about the land we traveled through and seemingly enjoying himself. He spoke of the land's history and its people, how his family went back generations and had holdings on these shores that were erected long before the castles of the current lords were established. His was a dynasty, it seemed, that although humble and small, predated the nobility. He made sweeping gestures with his free hand as the other held the rein so he could indicate the hills and streams, clefts of rock and trees, all seemed to be familiar to him. Soba did not comment on the singular conversation often, but when he did, it was to the point. I was grateful to my rescuers and did not want to appear disinterested, but the lazy sun was warm and the roll of the horse's walk methodical and soothing. I held the pommel with both of my hands and tried to maintain concentration, but the sun overcame me and I dozed off to the sound of Ash still talking as my eyelids closed. I awoke an hour or two later when the horse came to a stop and the absence of the traveling rhythm disturbed my meditation. I looked around. We were not yet at the House of Ash, but at a clear stream with a sturdy little bridge going over it. We will stop here so you can wash off, friend. We have facilities at the burrow, but women we have too, and they will not take kindly to you fouling up their nest as you are, Soba spoke to me and indicated. Wash the most of that mud and smell off in the stream, and then we may convince them to give you a proper bath in the end. I dismounted and gratefully waded into the stream, taking in a deep breath as I did so, as the water was cold as ice. Ash spoke. This stream be an outlet from the snowcaps on the mountains, he said. The mountains are solid and form a range all across the Hindland. They trap all the rain from the ocean and make a lot of snow. Makes for hard winters and cold but beautiful summers. I was no stranger to the cold, having come from a similar place as this and weathered many a storm aboard my ship. I stayed in the water for a good 20 minutes and scrubbed thoroughly to get the most of the dried mud off my skin and clothes. I also drank deeply from the cool, clean water. When I emerged, I was wet and chilled to the core, but felt like a new creature. I mounted Ash's pony and we resumed our travel. "The house is just an hour ahead," he commented. Something about the experience made me feel invigorated. The mud had been washed away in the stream, and with it, perhaps, my sorrows at the losses of yesterday. The pure water revitalized my capacities, and its enchanting coldness awakened my spirit. This was a land like my own, stern, resilient, and beautiful. My own land I had not seen in a long time, nor could I ever return unless I had an armada with me. I looked with fresh eyes at my present circumstances. I let the land speak to me. It didn't do so with words or ideas, nor did it speak quickly. I let the terrain itself guide my gaze, let it wander over the hills and under the cliff faces, as the land guided me. How beautiful it was! It had a soul, and I wanted so desperately to speak to it, to know it, to learn its language. I was lost to myself. Ash was watching quietly during this time. He had sensed a change in mood after I walked up out of the stream, and rather than speak as he had the proclivity to, he held his demeanor in a certain reverence, and he wondered. At length he broke the communion with a question. "My family has stood on this land for generations," he said. "Stood on it when others wanted to push him off. I wonder what you choose to stand for, friend Spectre." I was taken at a loss for a moment, as his human language felt momentarily foreign to me until my cognitive senses regained their function. He waited serenely while I considered, and then I answered simply and honestly. "What I stand for can be difficult to describe, Master Ash, but I do know this. When I choose to stand for something, I don't take to being threatened. I may be knocked down, but I do no stand down once I stood for something." I hope I did that right. It's very hard. Ash nodded approvingly. He seemed satisfied and said no more. An hour later we came to his burrow, but what we saw was not what we expected to see. Chapter 3. 2 Stout Staffs. We had rounded a hill with a very rocky outcropping from which stout oak trees grew, their leaves obscuring our view, so when we got through them the scene was immediately before our eyes. I took in the situation as I had been trained to. The beautiful hill with a towering mountain behind it, a stone archway embedded in the earth that framed a sturdy oaken door, barricaded, and 3 armed men standing guard in front with swords drawn. It was obvious that the soldiers had someone trapped inside the burrow. One of them was holding a torch. Ash exclaimed, "Millie!" aloud and made to rush forward. Reacting quickly, I reached down and grabbed his shoulder with my strong sailor's hands and jerked him back roughly, dismounting as I did so and using my weight to strengthen my restraint. Taking no time to explain to Ash, I reached into my vest to grab a small cloth and put what was wrapped in it on my ring finger. I had learned that if you wanted respect, you needed to act like you deserved it, so I strode confidently towards the soldiers, or mercenaries more likely. "Halt!" I said in an authoritative tone. The men startled and turned towards me with their swords in their hands. I pretended not to notice. "By whose order do you assault this household?" I demanded. Oh, my accent's getting so messed up. The closest man sneered and responded with contempt. "Get out of here, you! We have the law to deal with here!" I kept my direct stride towards him, not relenting even a little. I was completely unarmed. "What law do you invoke to enforce here? By whose authority is this atrocity committed? Answer me!" I was playing my bluff completely, stopping within easy reach of his weapon. The man was still menacing, but seemed taken aback by my confidence and lack of regard to his threat. He looked to his comrades, who gave him blank stares, and then back to me. He held his sword, but did not raise it. "Who are you to question us? We are officials of the local county." I had to think fast. "I am Count Von Doom," I tried to say with contempt in my own voice. The man sneered at me again. I was really beginning to loathe him. "A count? You don't look a count to me." In response, I held up my right hand, the one bearing the ring I had hastily put on as I dismounted from the horse. It was just a part of my treasure, the only thing that I had saved from my lost fortune, but it was pure gold and set with a fine-cut square ruby in the center. It was but a part of what I had accrued, but was likely worth more than 10 years of wages to this man. I held my hand up with the back to him and showed the ring. "My signet," I declared. I continued before they had time to think of more questions. "I am Count Von Doom. I was traveling through your country and was beset upon by bandits, when these two good men," I gestured to Soba and Ash, "rescued me." I planted my left fist on my hip and waved dramatically with my right hand, the one bearing the expensive ring. I do not know what justice you dogs are pretending to administer, but I owe these men a debt, and you tarnish my honor by assaulting their house. By the looks of it, there is someone confined in there. Is it a defenseless woman?" I turned deliberately, leaving my back completely open to the mercenaries. "Sir Ash, do you have kin inside that holding?" Ash was amazed, but played his part well. "My sister Millie, your lordship, and a very pretty girl, fancied upon by all the men hereabouts," he said. At least I think I'm getting Ash's voice pretty good. You know what's hard for me? I'm trying to do my voice, and my voice as a pretended stuck-up noble, and I don't know how to do that. Anyway, I spun around quickly, and taking a step closer to the ruffian, backhanded him harshly across the mouth. Though he was armed, I was known for being quick, and he failed to react to my sudden assault. My blow caught him completely by surprise, and I took advantage to give him a good kick and sent him sprawling to the ground as he lost the grip of his sword. I stepped over it to stand above him as he held a hand to his now bloody mouth. "Have you touched this girl?" I demanded while placing a foot on his chest and putting a good bit of my weight on him. "If you have assaulted this woman's innocence, by my birthright, I will hang you by your balls from your own battlements by morning." The other two men started towards me, but Ash and Soba moved closer also with their hands on their sword hilts. That stopped them in their tracks. I kept my attention on the man struggling beneath me, but he answered me nothing. I lifted my weight off him and gave him a mild kick. "Get out of my sight," I said. The man struggled to grab his sword and get away. Once within the safety of his conspirators, he looked back at me again. "Lord Breen will hear of this," he glared. I looked him back dead in the eyes. "Yes," I said, matter-of-factly. "Hey, well." They turned and left then, the lot of them, but I kept my eyes on them until they had disappeared from view. Ash had rushed into the burrow the moment the man had started crawling away, and as I turned I saw him emerge with a dark-haired girl in tow. She looked at me as he came out, and her eyes captivated me. There was no sign of defeat in them, no sign of being beaten. I saw in those eyes someone who would rather die in the fire than yield to evil. No, I thought to myself, they did not touch her. No one lays a hand on this woman without her consent. I decided right there and then that I was interested. Very interested. And then Chapter 4, A Prank on Baron Bream. Name dropping Mr. Bream there. So, that's the end of that chapter. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you laughed at my horrible accent attempts. Certainly I feel like the first chapter was better, but the conversations... Where am I going here? There we are. The conversations are... Oh, there's a skull from the Halloween texture pack. That's cool. The conversations are getting more complicated and the voices and everything, so... Anyway... Obviously, I'm not fit for redstone. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Tune in next time, whenever that happens, to see what we do with Baron Bream. See you later, fellas.